What's going on, everyone? It's the Gallop Out team back for Road to the Derby, presented by our friends at HPI Bet up at Woodbine in Canada. San Felipe Day, Jackson. Welcome. How are you doing? As we have Big Cap weekend as well up at Santa Anita, one of the biggest of the year.
Doing good, doing good. I'm as you can see down here, I'm really glad February's over because that was about one of the worst betting months I've ever had. And as the same day we flipped the page to March, I had a great betting day. So I'm all about March. It's March time, and glad it's finally a big weekend out here in Southern California. Obviously, we have the Big Cap and then the San Felipe, so gonna have some Derby implications as well.
Yes, you did. If you watched the show last week, Jackson picked Class President on top, and that horse very game in victory. I know when we covered the John Battaglia recap, you didn't entirely remember the race. I know you remember this one, though, because that was a very nice victory and a very great start to March for the co-host Jackson Muniz. So, yeah, congrats to you. March is your month. March, as you say.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I've definitely watched that race back about 15 times the last 48 hours. So
I can't blame you there whatsoever. But today we're heading back to the West Coast. One preview for you. It's the San Felipe Stakes out at Santa Anita. We're going to go full screen with the DRF past performances. Jackson, we'll start from the rail. Flashy Fritz, 30-1 on the morning line. We have a field of 7 here. This is one that you would expect is going to be a part of the pace early.
I love it. I would love someone to interview Dan Blacker and find out if this is a horse that's entered to ensure the race goes, or if this horse is entered as a rabbit for the stablemate. Because either way, I think it's kind of interesting that I would just like to know the answer to that question. I'm hoping it's the latter, that he is a rabbit, and that they fly up front, because that would certainly compromise the chances of the favorite and make this race pretty interesting.
Yeah, it sure will. Next up, we do have the stablemate, and that's the number 2 Start the Ride, Thoroughbred colt in here. But you notice the running lines, when you look at the maiden performance, or the first out performance, I should say, Smooth and Saturday ended up winning 2 in a row off of that. And this horse was declared a non-starter in that event after being kind of held up at the gate in there. And then in the following race, in the Cal Cup Derby, ran a really professional race, definitely took a step forward. Pavlovian, who finished 3rd in there, came right back with a very game performance in the Sunland Park Derby. And we're next going to see him most likely in the Louisiana Derby out at the fairgrounds. So that's obviously a horse that they've thought a lot of as a Calbred. Start the Ride, Calbred for Harris Farms. Armando Ayuso is going to be aboard, Jackson. Yeah, you mentioned maybe the rail horse is in to kind of get that pace heated up with Adrian Escobedo aboard to set things up for Start the Ride.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick him in here, but I do think he's I'm very curious to see how he runs, because he was a non-starter in his debut and actually kind of ran okay in that spot. And then they felt this strongly about him to take a shot in a stakes race against winners in the Cal Cup Derby. And I thought he won that race pretty easily in the end. And it wasn't like the pace was super fast. He was able to close from the back half of the field. He won decisively. And the 2 horses to come out of there to run on the dirt both have improved significantly off that speed figure. So he's not the worst long shot I've ever seen.
No, he's not. Next up is Secured Freedom. Spoiler alert, this is my top pick in the race. Jackson, I'm not normally one to pick the practical jokes go in 2 turns. However, I really liked his effort in the Robert B. Lewis. He was wide both turns in that event. He did come closing late behind Plutarch, your eventual winner, and Intrepido, who is a horse that I've always, thought pretty highly of, is in the Jeff Mullins barn. We're not seeing him here. We'll likely see his next start in the Santa Anita Derby. But this is kind of one of those where there's the old adage out west, where if you're going to try and beat Bob Baffert, you got to do it with Tim Yakteen. And Yak's barn has been maybe a little bit chilly lately, but I like the way Secured Freedom runs. You get Kazushi Kimura aboard, who's always going to have his horse in a good position. And, I know he was 7th last time, but he really wasn't that far off the pace early, and then he was so wide, though. I think he just lost too much ground. He ended up, kind of clunking up for 4th, for 3rd rather, by about 4 lengths, and that is what it is. I think he can get a much more improved performance here, because I do think there's a lot more pace signed on, Jackson.
Yeah, I know a lot of people actually like him coming out of Bob Lewis, and he kind of was the wise guy pick for next time out after that race had happened. I don't know. I'm not as convinced as everyone else. Thought he kind of just ran in place. I'm not sure how good that field actually was in the Bob Lewis stakes. And even the maiden victory score, like, he just got a dream trip that day. There's 3 horses battling it out for the lead across the track, seeing a really fast pace. He sat in fourth. The other horse that was 1-5 that was next to him didn't fire at all. Like, it kind of just felt like he took advantage of that maiden field. And then last time he kind of just clunked up for third in a race that didn't come back that fast. So he's not for me here, but I do know a lot of people that I respect that like this horse quite a bit.
The race didn't come back the fastest, but Cherokee Nation came out of that race to absolutely demolish a maiden field and get 100 buyers. So read into that what you will, but Jackson's points are valid. Jackson, we got to talk about your morning line favorite in the number 4 Brant making his return for Sedan Racing Stables, and of course Bob Baffert, the multi-time winner of this race. We are going to watch the replay here, and we're going to skip towards the back stretch here. But Jackson, Brant, the number 7 in here, obviously had to hold off Ted Noffey, and that's a task no one did as a 2-year-old. What were your thoughts on this race and then the comeback spot for the San Felipe here?
I wish he had run better in the Breeders' Cup. And to be fair to him, I don't think he was ridden. Felipe Pratt is the best jockey in the country, but I think he could have ridden this horse a little better. They went so slow up front. And if you look at the fractions of this race compared to the fractions of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies just a couple of races before this, I think they went about 8 lengths faster in the Juvenile Fillies race. So he kind of was playing into the hands of Ted Noffey. When you have a horse like Brant, when you have his speed, you got to go. I mean, you got to open up in this field. The speed is your asset. You got to make everyone else work for it. Instead, he turned this into a 3-furlong sprint for home. That's Ted Noffey's game. He was never going to win given the pace set up in this spot, given that they went so slow and they turned into a sprint. That's just not the way Brant is going to be successful against the best of the best. Now, with that being said, I still feel like he should have gotten second in here. I don't love that he got passed by Mr. AP, and Litmus Test was right there as well. So we'll see how he does here. He hasn't been seen since. I do think they need to be really aggressive with him. And as we kind of mentioned, it seems like there might be a rabbit in this race. Yeah,
seems like there could be. This is a comeback race, and we do have 50 Kentucky Derby points on the line. You'd have to imagine that the Santa Anita Derby, being the main prep out west, probably the target goal for the number 4 Brant, right, Jackson?
Yeah, I would think so. And the last thing I'll say about his Breeders' Cup is he was ridden like the connections have distance concerns about him because they try to back down the pace and go as slow as possible and kick for home, which they did do. But that's not usually something you do with a speed horse when you think they're capable of going further distances.
Yeah, that's definitely some cause for concern. I do wonder about the distance limitations here. He's got a funky way of moving, and I'm no expert on that. You know, Sierra Leone kind of had a weird one, but clearly he's an amazing horse. But Brant, yeah, I don't know. I feel like even money, which I'm gonna guess is going to be a little bit lower than that. Probably not for my money. I don't know your thoughts there, but we'll move on to the number 5 Potente. Impressive maiden breaking performance. Did so on the front end under JJ Juan Hernandez, who is back riding this week after, I believe, a short suspension. Kazushi Kimura is going to be in the saddle. Kazushi Kimura was in the saddle for the maiden breaking performance. JJ in the saddle this weekend. What are your thoughts on this runner?
Well, first of all, you can get some clues on this horse, on the quality of the field that this horse beat in his debut, because Captain Shreve and Deep Tracks, the 2nd and 3rd place finishers, are also entered back on Saturday in race 6, I believe. So you'll get a little bit of an idea of how that productive that race might have been a little bit before this race goes off. 6 days out, I don't think that field was that great, to be perfectly honest. I felt like there was average group at best, and they kind of just set a slow pace, and he was able to get the job done. I think this is a much tougher field. He does have to stretch out. I'm not in love with him in this spot.
I am not either, but 9-2. If you do like him, that's your price. We're going to watch the replay of So Happy's San Vicente win, grade 2 win, 5-horse field over a couple of Bafferts. Acknowledge me, please, who finished 3rd, ended up shipping over to Saudi for the Saudi Cup Derby. Jackson, your thoughts here as we are watching primarily the number 2, So Happy, the Mark Glatt trainee.
I thought he ran fine. Again, with this race as well, I'm not sure how good this field was necessarily. We saw Butane come back, and I believe he hit the board in the Southwest. Does that sound?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was 2nd or 3rd in the Southwest. He ran okay in there. Acknowledge me, please, a horse that is going to be at his best going shorter, probably 6 furlongs. So I feel like he beat a field that was also questionable. He also did it the right way. I mean, he put himself into a really nice spot with his tactical speed, got the jump on the deeper closer in Butane, and that race was never really in doubt in the stretch. I mean, we're going to see the final 16th in a second. And he is pulling away late again from Butane, who made a little run at him in the stretch. And I think that's what you want to see from a horse like So Happy, who's going to do the 2 turns for the first time, especially considering Butane kind of proved to us in the Southwest that he's not a horse that wants to go the 2 turns. So I was happy to see him separate from the pack in the final 16th. And, with his tactical speed, he's always going to be dangerous in races like this. And I'm very curious to see how he runs.
Yeah, you can see he really leveled out nicely when he switched leads at the top of the stretch, and he clearly has more in the tank. You can see just compared to Butane, he looks a lot bigger physically. And you'd have to imagine, Jackson, that's going to benefit him when he stretches around 2 turns.
Yeah, I would think so for sure.
We'll keep it moving. Horse 7, that's Robusta, gets blinkers on for this effort. Won the maiden breaking performance over Cherokee Nation, Blacksmith, a couple of Baffert horses, Cherokee Nation, the one we mentioned earlier with the 100 buyer maiden breaking performance. Ran the same speed figure, didn't necessarily improve, and kind of looked overmatched, Jackson, in the Robert B. Lewis. 20-1, I think, is a very deserved morning line. Blinkers on, though, you'd have to imagine that might get this one a little more forward as well.
I would imagine that's the plan, and you would know more about this horse than I would. I agree with you. I thought he needs to find more based on his most recent race, but from that outside post with the blinkers on and with his only victory coming on the lead, I got to imagine the plan is to try to make the front at all costs.
That I would agree. Going to the front has to be the MO here. I don't know a whole lot about their thoughts on this horse other than the most recent work that you can see on the work tab took place Saturday morning. They gave Robusta a nice target out in front to kind of go chase down. He did it nicely. The workmate, as I'm trying to think of the horse's name, I can't off the top of my head, so I won't strain myself anymore, but gave him a target, gave him a workmate, and he leveled off, and he finished off that work pretty nicely. I think he's still kind of figuring things out. Blinkers on might just be to kind of sharpen, focus him up a little bit as they look forward to a 3-year-old campaign for this Calumet farm owned, trained by Doug O'Neill.
The workmate was cash in tonight.
Thank you.
Is it Robusta or Robusta?
Robusta. It's a wine reference or something, I think. Yeah. I saw that accidentally at a dinner on the menu the other day.
So if he wins, are you guys gonna get a bottle from Doug?
I guess so. I'll drink whatever, whenever. So we'll see. Picks for the race: San Felipe Stakes. I'm going with the number 3, Secured Freedom. Jackson with the number 6, So Happy. Jackson, tell us why you landed on the number 6, So Happy for Mark Glatt, and what your wager is going to be in here.
It's just going to be a win bet on So Happy. He's listed at 2-1 on the morning line. I do feel like it's either going to be him or Brant. I have a tough time envisioning someone else jumping up and beating those two. And it's kind of just going to be a matter of who works out the better trip. I'm hoping someone goes with Brant. And I do think Brant has questions to answer about the 2 turns. And with some of these long shots having some speed, it might compromise his chances a little bit. And he doesn't have a race since October now. I think it was Halloween weekend. So Happy does have the recency edge, and I just more confident in his ability to go the 2 turns for So Happy. So at double the price, I'm going to just bet a nice little win bet.
I like it. I'm going to try and get a little bit cute with the number 3, Secured Freedom, who absolutely has to get faster. But I do think that there's a chance this race really heats up on the front end. And I think So Happy is going to be one of those coming from off the pace. I think the other one that you're going to want to keep an eye out is the number 3, Secured Freedom. And while I think this might be a little bit preppy for a horse like Brant, I think the other horses that are going to show some speed most likely aren't going to be up to the caliber of racehorse that those top contenders are. So I think if you're ever going to get a good price on Secured Freedom, it's going to be this Saturday in the San Felipe. Don't know that I want this horse going 1.25 miles, but I think 8.5 furlongs is certainly in the wheelhouse for Secured Freedom. Tim Yakteen, Kazushi Kimura in there. Jackson, this has been a preview of the San Felipe Stakes. Thank you to everybody watching along at HPI Bet. Jackson, we'll see him next week as we roll on. Actually, we'll see him later this week, rather, as we preview the Tampa Bay Derby for another big Derby prep out in Oldsmar, Florida. Thank you guys, and we will see you on the next one.